What's going on YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of After the Movie. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's right, after years of fan demands going crazy over this thing, spamming Warner Brothers, demanding it, the Snyder Cut has finally been released. This thing has kind of been elevated to mythical status, and it all started back in 2016 after the release of Batman vs. Superman. See, when that movie came out, it kind of didn't have the best response going for it. It had a strong opening weekend, but it dropped off, didn't get the best reviews, and so the studio got cold feet, and they drastically altered Justice League. On top of that, Zack Snyder unfortunately lost his daughter Autumn, which the film is dedicated to her, which is a nice touching ending right there. It says for Autumn at the end of it. I'm like, that's a very sweet thing. So all this crazy stuff happened. Joss Whedon was brought in. Jeff Johns there. Toby Emmerich. Was it Walter Hamada? I don't even know like the whole story of it, because it's just, you hear so much stuff all the time about this thing. Again, when the 2017 version came out, I was like, okay, we're changing the tone. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it more lighthearted. There, is this what you want? This is what you want? And so they did that, and the response was pretty, like, lukewarm. Now, I have fond memories of seeing the theatrical cut in theaters. I went to an advanced early, like, kind of press screening what was it, like, before the movie opened up, before everyone else could see it. Met some cool people there, so I'm still friends with to this day. I had a fun time seeing Justice League in theaters for the first time. So seeing it now, rewatching it, it's not a good movie. It's kind of one of those things that just gets worse the more you watch it. And then after seeing this version, you're just kind of left like scratching your head like, how did we go from like Zack Snyder's Justice League to Joss Whedon's Justice League, or the Justice League version as it is known? Again, I understand there's a lot of spittling going around with that version, just trying to change things up instead of delaying it. It just was an all-around mess, when in reality they should have just, like, you know, released the original version as, well, not the 4 hours, because that is a little long for any movie. Probably just a 3-hour cut or something like that, but like a 4-hour cut is just, it's massive. Like, this thing is just insane. It would have been best to probably just release, not really tweak too much of it, kind of maybe just trim some of it down a little bit and just release it as is. Would have avoided the hassle. You wouldn't have had like this whole thing. And then change things afterwards. You were already like in production about this film, you know, Justice League, which Justice League was supposed to be a 2-part movie. I think even 3 maybe. But it just kind of got like so out of hand, kind of crazy. And now we are years later, we have the Snyder Cut. All new CGI, new composer, no Danny Elfman this time around, no Joss Whedon scenes at all. Zack Snyder's original vision. They did film some extra stuff back in October, I believe. The extended nightmare sequence with Jared Leto at the end definitely is some of the new footage, and new stuff with Martian Manhunter, which I wouldn't really even call it too much of a spoiler, because Zack Snyder himself, you know, talked about having Harry Lennox there as Martian Manhunter at this point, which, you know, it's cool. But then when you know Swanwick, it's kind of cool going back and rewatching Man of Steel, knowing that Swanwick is Martian Manhunter, but at the same time, it leaves you scratching your head like, well, where the fuck were you during all these Extinction events? Now you're getting your ass out of here? I almost feel like quoting that line from Happy Gilmore, where he's just like, where are you on that one, dipshit? Like, the guy, like, I want to know his story as to why he didn't do anything, like, between the other Extinction events. So anyways, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, what did I think of it? I liked it. Is it my favorite of the DC Extended Universe? No. I think my favorite in the DCU is still probably Shazam. Shazam, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Man of Steel. Those are the top 4. I put this one at the 5th slot. Again, it is 4 hours long, so it definitely takes its time. It almost works as a mini series of sorts, and it's kind of separated into several sections. And again, it is good. Like, it's definitely an improvement over the theatrical cut in pretty much every conceivable way possible. Like, you know, Cyborg actually has a role this time around. Flash does something pretty cool towards the end. There's still a lot of obnoxious stuff with Flash, because I gotta say, I'm not really a big fan of Ezra Miller in the role. I think the first time I saw it, I may have been fine with it, but like now, upon like watching the theatrical cut and then watching this version too, I'm just not getting behind Flash. The timing of the jokes, it just doesn't work. When Flash is kind of like toned down a little bit, Flash is more tolerable. But when he's just allowed to kind of just go off and do his thing. It just kind of ruins it a little bit for the movie. It just kind of takes you out of it. It's just like, oh, dude, just shut up. You're not funny. You're not really. Your comedic timing isn't that good. Like, isn't the theatrical cut that had the whole brunch bit, which was just like, why is this even here? It just wasn't. It just wasn't working. Like, the comedic timing from Ezra is just not there. But the funniest character in the movie is still Alfred. Like, Jeremy Irons gets. Like, there's some great stuff with Jeremy Irons here. I think one of my favorite little moments is just the scene where he's just making tea with Wonder Woman. It's a little moment, but it leaves a good impact. And, like, again, there's some funny bits of levity here. There's some good carryover development for Ben Affleck's Batman this time around. So he's trying to, like, he's operating based on faith instead of, like, reasoning. This is the first time he's doing it. He's taking kind of a leap of faith after what happened with Superman. He's on a mission to kind of redeem himself after, you know, in some ways being responsible for the death of Superman. Not necessarily his fault. It was more, you know, Lex Luthor in that, but, like, he kind of lost it, and he did stuff that he wasn't quite proud of. And he's trying to make amends for that. So, again, there's a lot of characters in this thing. That's why I think the 4-hour runtime actually benefits for this thing. You really can expand things with the Amazon. There's some bits you probably could have cut. For instance, and maybe just little tweaks here and there throughout it. Like, for instance, when the Amazons are doing their thing, not the Amazon bit, when Batman's talking to Aquaman, it's definitely different from the version in 2017, but there's a whole bit where some ladies, like, sniffs Jason Momoa's clothes, which is kind of creepy, and then they start this whole song number. You could have omitted that entirely. It wouldn't have changed it at all. Like, there's no reason to kind of include that in there. Like, that's an example of something that probably could have been cut. Other stuff that I had kind of issues with, I'll get into some of my issues first of all, and then we'll kind of go into the positives. Again, there's a lot more positives than negatives this time around. Like I said, the stuff with Cyborg, he has a pretty good storyline going on here. There's a lot more raw emotion from, like, Ray Fisher's performance, whereas in the theatrical cut, he's just kind of there. There's no reason to care. Whereas this version, it's a complete 180. And you can really see the power that he has on display here. So there's that. Steppenwolf as a villain is still just okay. He's definitely a character this time around. Not really a big fan of the design, but it is an improvement over the previous design. Didn't have any issues with just the sod stuff. Darkseid looks great. Would have liked to have seen more of him in the movie, but he's kind of being set up as the big bad for future films, assuming that they get the chance to make future stuff. But we'll just have to wait and see with that. But anyways, other stuff. I had some negative. There's some little kind of minor complaints I have in this version. Like I said, Martian Manhunter, while cool, it makes you question, like, where the hell was this guy this whole time? There's a whole sequence where, I guess I'll get into spoilers at this point, but overall, I definitely say you should check this thing out. It's grand, it's epic. Yeah, it's got the 4:3 aspect ratio, which a lot of people are annoyed by, but you're getting the full picture there, and you just kind of have to get used to it. But like I said, it's grand, it's epic. There's some cool moments in here. The score is definitely an improvement overall. Some bits, there's maybe like one sequence I like the Elfman score a little bit more, and that was during the fight with Superman, and that I just thought was a little bit better there. But other than that, like, you know, Junkie XL's score is better. Action bits are great. Still not peak in this universe. Man of Steel still has the best action sequences. Man of Steel has the best villain, still has the best action sequences. I just think I just like Man of Steel more than this movie. Even though there's bits I like in this film more, like the way it takes its time with a lot of the characters and really kind of fleshing things out a little bit more. Again, Man of Steel, just, God, the score. I really wish Hans Zimmer came back to do the music for this with Junkie XL. I think it would have been better. Not to say the score is bad. I just think it really needs some of that Hans Zimmer touch in there. And again, there's some epic stuff in here too. So I like the main Justice League theme, like the War Power's like like that. That's the score there is pretty good. Acting across the board is pretty solid. Well, there's some actors that aren't quite there. Amber Heard as Mira is pretty bad. Her accent changes quite frequently throughout the film. Like, if you can't do the accent, just don't do it. It worked better when she was just kind of just talking without one in the Aquaman movie, but here it's just like, what are you even trying to do? Like, it's just kind of bad. So definitely not. Mira's accent definitely is not very good this time around. Jason Momoa is still awesome doing his thing, and this one definitely ties more into Aquaman. There's definitely some, like, inconsistencies between this film and that film. Like, every time the Atlanteans talk, she has to create a little air bubble. but like when they're talking underwater, you hear kind of like this weird, like, I don't know, almost sounds like dolphin noises that they're making underwater as a means to communicate. Whereas in the Aquaman film, they just kind of talk underwater. And you know what? It's a fantasy. It's unrealistic world. All you need to know is the trident allows them to talk underwater. So there was that. And yeah, so again, this leads right into like the Aquaman movie. And again, I'm glad that James Wan took over that film. It's visually more stunning. The stuff with the underwater action sequences are better. It's just one of those things that I think just kind of worked out better. But again, it's nice how this thing kind of ties into that. So yeah, there's that. What else can we say? The final action bits are quite good. Still not quite the Man of Steel levels. When Superman comes back, it's definitely more violent. Wonder Woman, there's one bit that kind of annoyed me a little bit with her, and that was the sequence where she's saving the kids from the terrorists. Now, when she's going in there and she's, you know, stopping all the bullets, that's good now. She's knocking people back. But she takes this bomb and throws it up into the sky so it doesn't blow things up. So what does she do? The final bad guy, again, she's shown to move at incredible, like, super speed, pretty much. And she does that, and then she's stopping all the bullets, but then when it gets to the last guy, she's, like, waiting for him to reload. And instead of just, like, zooming up to him and, like, breaking his gun and, like, knocking him out, she uses her gauntlets and blows up half the fucking building. And, like, nearly injuring a ton of people and possibly almost killing people outside instead of just zipping up. I'm like, why was that necessary? You've clearly shown you have the speed to, like, catch this guy. Why not just do that and just, you know, knock the guy down? But instead she uses her gauntlets and blows up half the building. It's like, and this little kid's like, can I be just like you? And again, I like, you know, Diana, like, you know, making the girl smile, but at the same time, I'm like, you just blew up half the building. Like, you could have just stopped that guy with a simple, like, knockout punch or something. That's a little minor. That's a little bit excessive for me. And again, I'm just kind of questioning that too. Like I said, I already talked about Martian Manhunter. Like, he shows up in one scene where he's impersonating, like, Martha Kent, and I'm like, that scene would have been more impactful if it just was Martha Kent talking to Lois Lane instead of Martian Manhunter doing it. But, and some of the CGI is not great. I really wish they'd just do practical makeup effects, you know, practical effects. Again, it's probably because they were rushing through it with that. But it's one of those things, like, for future films, please just do makeup. Don't do the CGI motion capture face thing. It just looks off and weird for that character. When you could just do it with makeup, I think that would be an improvement if they get the chance to. Because again, his ending just feels kind of tacked on. Again, like the whole Nightmare, like the whole epilogue portion with the Nightmare stuff and the Martian Manhunter cameo feels very tacked on. But I still kind of enjoy it a bit, to the extent of like Bruce Wayne is just like, an alien shows up to his door, like Martian Manhunter is just like, oh yeah, sure. He's a lot more relaxed. He doesn't have like the alcohol, like, so he's clearly gone through a journey. And you get the sense, like, when, you know, Martian Manhunter's talking to him kind of at the end there, and I guess did I do a spoiler warning? I don't know. I'm just kind of going to ramble off. But you get the sense that, like, he's kind of changed things. Like, your parents would be proud of you, Bruce. And like, okay, cool. Well, see you around. There's kind of like a triumphant feel with it, too. Other weak points, I know I'm getting into some weak points now, but I'm getting to some positives, too. Like I said, score is good. The performances, for the most part, across the board are pretty solid. There's some epic action bits. I love the history lesson that Wonder Woman goes through and explains. There's just some really spectacular visuals, and Snyder's really good at this whole visual storytelling. Superman's entrance is really badass, too. Like, for instance, he does kind of like the Flight 2.0. It was nice to hear Russell Crowe and, you know, Kevin Costner kind of back in their respective roles, just doing voiceover bits. I like that, but I kind of wish it was a little bit more grand with Flight 2.0. Like, he starts to fly, and then of course, they gotta be Zack Snyder with the Jesus imagery. It almost feels like a troll at this point. Like, it's like, you get it? Like, I know a lot of people have issues with it, but it feels like he's kind of trolling with that bit. So I kind of chuckle a little bit, because I know exactly the reaction it's going to get whenever he kind of does that stuff. But he comes back. I would have liked a little bit longer bit of Flight 2.0. So then Superman comes back. He's smiling a bit. Like, it's not as excessive as in, like, theatrical. Like, there's some things that just, we were thinking back to the 2017 version. Like, there's, like, unnecessary, like, bits of, like, scenes that didn't need to be changed at all. They're all just fine the way they are. So that's a little bit of an annoyance with that there. Anything else I can say that kind of bothered me? Yeah, I guess I'll say another thing that kind of bugs me too. Again, I know I'm kind of getting to the negatives, but I still like this thing. Like, the Flash's ending is pretty cool. Cyborg, the way his storyline wraps up, like, all the characters, like, the actors are pretty good, and like, things like make more sense. It's a lot more cohesive than the theatrical cut. And again, things are fleshed out a lot more. Like, every little detail's there. It's like watching a little miniseries, and it works. It's perfect for streaming. I don't think it would have worked quite well theatrically with a 4-hour version, but I think streaming is kind of the perfect platform for it right now, because it's like, okay, it's separating apart. I can pause. I can take a leak or something. Whereas in the theater, I'd be like, oh my god, I have to use the bathroom. It's 4 hours or something. So I think that kind of works to its advantage, being strictly on the HBO Max streaming platform. Yeah, it's a triumphant movie for the most part. If I had, I guess, 2 other last-minute nitpicks before I kind of wrap this thing up. So we get the nightmare stuff at the end of the movie, and it's pretty cool. Like, I was engaged in the conversation between Batman and Joker, but Jared Leto, God, he's unintentionally hilarious. Like, every time he tries to do, like, it's an obnoxious cackling and that, I'm just like, this is not good, but it's like, I'm laughing at it. Like, it's just unintentional. He talks about giving Batman a reach around, which just felt really out of nowhere. Like, it's like, it felt like, oh, we gotta do, like, R-rated edgy. It was kind of like, it felt very off from the rest of the movie. Like, it definitely was like a new addition, and it didn't really, like, there's no build up to it or lead into it whatsoever. It just kind of happens. And then Batman is just like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I'm like, Batman, Christ, like, wasn't your whole arc about becoming better in that? Like, now you're just like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm like, Batman should never say, I'm going to fucking kill you. It's hilarious, but at the same, like Jesus, Batman. Because Batman's whole thing in the comics is like, he's not a killer. But again, that's one of my issues with the way, like, sometimes Snyder adapts things. Like, visually, he's outstanding. Like, there's no denying he's great at crafting top-notch visuals. A lot of his weaker falling points are in the story, and, like, he's got these iconic characters, and I get Elseworlds and that, but at the same time, it's just like, why would you, like, want to, if you're going to tweak the characters so much, like, why wouldn't you just do something, like, why would you want to adapt the characters if you're going to tweak them so, like, make them so different from, like, the iconic versions of them? I still want to see I want to see an iconic Batman on the big screen, like one who's not actively trying to kill someone. The only on-screen Batman who hasn't killed is George Clooney. Legit, just George Clooney. Val Kilmer, like, they made a point about it with the whole killing thing, and I like Batman Forever. Part of that's the reason why I like it, is because they kind of acknowledge the fact that Batman was a bit of a killer, and he kind of talks about, like, what happens to somebody when you take a life. So I kind of like that aspect, but that's kind of ruined when he unintentionally kills Two-Face by throwing the coins. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, I feel like Batman shouldn't be a killer. That's one of the things that makes him more interesting. Again, I'm somebody who loves Batman 89. That's like one of my favorite movies, but I still have the killing thing is still one of those that really shouldn't be there. So that's just a minor complaint. I mean, I can tolerate it, but I kind of want to see a more iconic Batman portrayed on screen. If you get what I'm saying, one who doesn't kill. So that would be nice to see one day. One day we'll get the perfect on-screen Batman. And again, I like Ben Affleck in the role, but I just want to, but this is like definitely like a more of an, you have to look at this as an Elseworlds take on the character, because we're not quite there yet. Visually it's there. Action-wise, it's there, but, like, the characterization, we're not quite there. But at least Bruce has, you know, some nice bits of character development. Again, he's got some good scenes with Alfred in there, too. Superman has a really awesome comeback scene where Steppenwolf tries to, like, he stops him from killing Cyborg. He, like, jumps in front of it, and he's just, like, not impressed. And he just uses his freeze breath and just smashes the axe. That was awesome. That was pretty badass. And again, I'm somebody who didn't mind the I Believe in Truth, but I'm also a big fan of Justice. Like, that felt like, in the theatrical, it was like, you know, classic Superman. Here, it's still just kind of a badass moment. So I appreciated that, and I appreciate just seeing Henry Cavill back in the role of Superman. He's not in this movie very much, which is kind of surprising given its 4-hour run time. You'd think we could get more Superman, Clark Kent. But hopefully, if they ever do more, if this really is the last we see of Henry Cavill's Superman, I'm glad I got to see it. I really want to know. I'm really curious. Before, I was like kind of hesitant of them kind of continuing some things, because some of the plans I've heard that Zack Snyder wants to do, I'm not really a fan of, because it just feels like he's just making up a bunch of stuff instead of just adapting a lot of the iconic characters. Like, he wanted to give Bruce Wayne, or was it Superman, a son, name him Bruce, and make him the new Batman. And I'm like, you have the entire he killed Dick Grayson, made Dick Grayson the dead Robin. Like, you have the entire, like, Bat family at your fingertips. You've been given an opportunity to do something that a lot of fans have dreamed of, and you're just making up, like, a bunch of stuff instead of just bringing in the Bat family. I mean, Titans is kind of ruining that too, but, like, I want to see the Bat family on screen. Like, that's, but instead it's just like, let me just make up some weird, you know, kind of fan fiction-y version of it. And I'm just like, ugh, like, there's that's the comic book fan in me, just kind of nitpicking certain bits like that. But there's some stuff I'm like, I want to see them face off against Darkseid. I want to see the Green Lanterns. Hopefully, maybe the Flash movie will kind of change things to where we can get kind of an altered version of that sequel with the Nightmare stuff, but also incorporating other DC characters into the mix. So I don't know what's going to happen. Will the Snyderverse continue? If this thing does very well, which, you know, it's been so far a success for HBO Max, we could very well see it, but it's still got a long ways to go. With that said, I'm glad I saw this thing. It's on HBO Max. It's worth checking out. It's a very bold, epic, grand movie, and it is good. I did like it. Have my issues with it for sure, but I still enjoyed this thing. I want to know what happens next. Again, there were setups with, you know, Deathstroke and Ben Affleck's Batman movie, which we're unfortunately seemingly never going to get. There's just so much in this universe that I really want to see. And again, I'm more excited for this now than I was after, like, I don't know. I was excited after the theatrical cut too, because I wanted to see Legion of Doom go up against the Justice League. But now I'm just like, will we see it? Will we not? I don't know. Ben Affleck is still, I think he would come back for more. He signed on for The Flash. He did the reshoot stuff. I think he still kind of wants to maybe stick around, as long as he doesn't have, like, the full burden on him. As long as they don't have the crazy studio interference that they had before. But, yeah, I'm glad Zack Snyder got to finally make this movie. I'm glad, you know, it's out there for the fans. Even though some fans in that community are kind of, like, we're kind of assholes. And, you know, I've experienced some stuff with them online, too. And I'm one of those people who's like, if it didn't happen, I would have been okay with it. But now that it happened, but, like, if it did happen, I was going to watch it. And, you know, I watched it, and I enjoyed it. It's better than Batman vs. Superman, but I still like Man of Steel a little bit more. Maybe it's just because I like Michael Shannon as the villain. Maybe it's the score too. Maybe it's the grand epic final battle that kind of got to me. But I think the character work for a lot of the other characters works stronger here. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I like this one, but I still like Man of Steel more. Man of Steel is still my favorite of Zack Snyder's DCU films. So there's that. But Zack Snyder's Justice League is definitely one that's worth checking out. So anyways, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Leave me a comment down below, and we can talk about this thing some more. There's still a lot to discuss in this thing. Again, it's 4 hours. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I missed talking about, because there's only so much you can say, especially when it's a 4-hour movie. So it's a lot to digest. But anyways, what are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. I got more stuff coming up in the coming weeks. And, yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's on HBO Max. It's worth taking a look at. It's a very fascinating experience seeing how drastically different this thing was from the theatrical cut from a few years ago. So, yeah, that's it. That's the Snyder Cut. It's finally out. We can put it behind us now. Although some fans will not, I'm sure. The next thing is restore the Snyderverse, and then it'll just keep going from there. But we'll see what happens from there. I've seen crazy things. This is the craziest thing I've said. This is one crazy movie-going ride from start to finish. It's unbelievable, actually. But, yep, that's that. Now into Godzilla vs. Kong. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.